everyone, welcome back to the BJ Show, Mixed Foot and Footy Show. I'm your host, BJ, Future with Aiden. Once again, let's get in with the show. Hello everyone, and I am so glad. Thank you for your support. Make sure you give this a like, give this a follow. You might as well give this a subscribe down below. Much appreciated. All right, let's dive in. What is on the sports show? What is on? Well, we will cover, as we did last time. That's it last week. Round 10 and round 11. Round 10 is the previews. We have that first split round of round 11 preview. So we'll have Aiden's all his thoughts, and thanks again, Aiden, for your of that. We'll then drive into the grand final. That is it, the update for the Suzuki UTE Men's 2026 Grand Final A-League. Can't wait for that. We have Auckland FC first timers are taking on Sydney FC, who won the grand final. The result is booked in, so we'll share all of that. We'll continue with round 11 previews round 12 for the Suncorp Super Netball. Oh boy, some really big results there and some just over the line. As well, the NBL1 Central Conference for the men's and women's round 9 results were reviewed. Well, the SANFL is back for round 8 previews to round 7 results and reviews. And then obvious, the first split round of my thoughts and into the first split round. So from 11 and 12. So we do come up to the halfway through mark of the 2026 AFL Apprenticeship season. Let's start the BJ Show Sport and Footy Show. First up, we have Aiden and his thoughts. All right, Aiden, it's time to share your reviews, your previews, your results, your tips, your thoughts, and your predictions. Take it away.
Hello again, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the BJ Show. I'm Aiden, and I'm going to be going through my thoughts for round 11 of the 2026 AFL season. 11 is the second half of the Sir Doug Nicholls round, and we begin in Tasmania for Hawthorn versus Adelaide. This one finished Hawthorn 10-15-75, Adelaide 9-12-66. Now, Adelaide had the better of the opening quarter, definitely the opening half of the game, or the opening third of the game. Hawthorn, very slow start in Tasmania, where they are known to do well. Adelaide going into the first change up 2 goals. Adelaide still looking very, very strong early in the second quarter, and then Hawthorn come back into the game. They start to find their footing in the game at this point, midway through that second quarter, and they do pile on a lead and swing that advantage to 2 goals their way. Half time. Second half, still more Hawthorn. Hawthorn had more opportunity and took more opportunity. Hawthorn adding 2 goals to 1 in the quarter. And then in the last quarter, Crows come back and they have opportunities to win this game. And this is sort of where the Crows are at, is they're in games where they have these moments and they have these opportunities to swing momentum back their way, and they just don't do it against the class size of the competition. So just not able to get that full momentum swing there for the Crows. Some dumb mistakes by some Adelaide players did not help Hawthorn get over the line here by 9 points. And I think that as much as it was Thursday night in Tasmania, Adelaide really should have won this game. I think when they were on form, they were the better team on form and just could not close late in the second half in that last quarter, the last 10 minutes of the last quarter, where they were in control of the game. For Hawthorn, this is another week, another win for them. They're a very strong team, and they're rightfully so. Just continuing to find ways to win games without their key players available. So Hawthorn, when they get everyone back, will come up again. They will be dangerous. Adelaide, again, from minor premiers last year to where they are now, is a big fall off. And I think that Adelaide possibly could fall into that wild card if things don't change very quickly, because losing is one thing, but just this consistent losing to teams who are around you, even away, it does damage you. And it does end your season quite quickly. So Adelaide do need to do better than that. My player of the game in this one, I'm going to give to Blake Hardwick of Hawthorn, 92 AFL fantasy, 4 goals, 14 touches, 10 kicks, 4 handballs, 6 marks, and 3 tackles for Blake Hardwick. Best for the Crows included Jordan Dawson, 131 fantasy, 1 goal, 28, 21, 7, 5, and 9. Wayne Miller 106, 32, 22, 10, 5 and 3. And Sam Berry with a BJ Show triple-double, 105, 27, 12, 15, 1 and 10. Now time for Friday night, and we begin with Dreamtime at the G between Richmond and Essendon. And this one really was not a great game of football to say the least. It was a game where we knew what we were getting from a entertainment standpoint. It was 18th versus 17th, but they still put on as much of an effort as they could. It wasn't, as I said, great footy to watch, but it was still footy. Richmond winning this one 10-14-74 to Essendon's 7-14-56. Richmond, the better team here on the day, and I think that just shows the class of the Tigers. I think in the last couple of years, but both of these teams have been around that bottom 6, bottom 4. The Richmond's got more of their draft picks right, and they've got more talent coming through the door than Essendon do right now. The Bombers, and news coming out today is they have sacked their coach, so they will be going forward with a new coach, and this is just another example of saying the direction they were going in, I think, was quite alarming. I think they spent a lot of time trying to build a team around what they got, and then what they got wasn't really coping against the top side, so they've had to chuck it in the bin. And I think the future for the Bombers, the near future, is going to be quite dark. I think that there's not a lot of light at the end of this tunnel for Essendon, but I do see them in a couple of years coming back up. But they need to get their draft picks right. I think they were so wrapped in Isaac Kako that I think that at his performances, I just don't think they've been AFL standard. I don't think that for all the hype they talked about him with, I don't think that he's lived up to that. Whereas Richmond, you look at the young guys like Sam Cumming, Sam Gree, these are players who are coming in, Josh Smiley, Sam Layla. These are players who are taking on the game and turning up for the footy, and that's the difference between what Richmond's recruited and what Essendon's recruited through the draft. So Essendon, new coach going forward, we'll see what they can do. Richmond move out of bottom with this win as well. So Essendon down in last place now as well. Player of the game here in this one, I'm going to have to give it to Tim Taranto from the Tigers. 127 AFL fantasy, 30 touches, 14 kicks, 16 handballs, 8 marks, 7 tackles. Also good for Richmond was Rising Star nominee Rechko, 106, 27, 15, 12, 8 and 3. Best for Essendon were Merritt, 148, 1 goal, 36, 18, 18, 12 and 5. And Darcy Parish, 129, 41, 22, 19, 7 and 4. We now move to our second game on the Friday night. This one out at Optus Stadium between Fremantle and St Kilda, and this one was quite an entertaining contest. This was one where St Kilda stayed in the game and hung in the contest for the good part of three and a bit quarters before Fremantle, the class of Fremantle, just took the game away from St Kilda. Final scores in this one: Fremantle 16-8, 104, St Kilda 11-8, 74. Fremantle winning by 30 points, and the Dockers now go top. They're top of the ladder. First time in I don't know how long they've been genuinely outright top of the AFL ladder, but they're here now, and they are a genuine team. The first time they've won 10 in a row as well as a club. They are a genuine finals contender. Fremantle, St Kilda, it's hard to say with the Saints what they're doing, because again, just like Essendon, they've invested a lot of money into bringing in the right players, but they just don't seem to have the results that they're looking for. And okay, while they sit 2 points out of the wild card, when you re-sign Nasiah Wanganeen-Mallara, when you bring in players like Tom De Koning, players like Liam Ryan, you expect more to happen. And I just think that with St Kilda, the way they're going, they're either going to have a really strong second half or they're going to have a really, really poor second half. And this is going to be telling for the future of Ross Lyon. He's had 2 shots at the Saints now, and he hasn't really ever delivered on the big promises. He hasn't got that premiership for St Kilda. So it is starting to be, again, I'm seeing a lot of what Essendon did a couple of years ago in the Saints, but I'm also seeing a lot of positives from them as well here in this one. So player of the game for me, and I don't think there's really much debate about it in this one. It's got to be from Fremantle. It's got to be Josh Tracy. 116 AFL fantasy, 2 goals, 19 touches, 12 kicks, 7 handballs, 11 marks, and 4 tackles. Also good for Fremantle were Luke Jackson, 93 AFL fantasy, 22, 715, 33, and 21 hitouts. And Nathan O'Driscoll, 93 AFL fantasy, 27, 10, 17, 7, and 2. Best for St Kilda were Sam Flanders, 117, 25, 16, 9, 7, and 7. And Sinclair, 101, 29, 21, 8, 6, and 1. Straight into our Saturday footy now. We start at Marvel for North Melbourne versus Gold Coast, and this one ended in probably one of the bigger upsets of the year so far. The final scores here: North Melbourne 17-9, 111. Gold Coast 16-9, 105. North Melbourne win the game by a goal. They win the game after the siren. So all game from the opening score, Gold Coast had the lead in this contest, but North Melbourne kept coming back. They kept throwing punches. They would not stay down against the Suns. Turn it around after half-time. 7 goals in the last quarter for the Kangas, including one after the siren from their key player in Cam Zurhaar, one of their great players that they've got on their list at the moment. They've also got a lot of good players, and this is what I like about North Melbourne. I think we talk about these bottom 4 sides. Then North Melbourne, they're not a bottom 4 side anymore because they've got the maturity of talent now. Zurhaar is a good player. Luke Davies-Uniacke is doing well. Sheasel's doing well. Wardlaw's doing well. So we've got a lot of players down there at the Kangaroos that are now becoming the faces or the elite players of the AFL and joining that group now. Gold Coast, this was an unfortunate loss for them. I think, being beaten by 7 goals in a quarter is never a good thing. But North Melbourne, and this is the thing, is I don't think Gold Coast ever took their feet off the gas. I just think that North Melbourne wanted it more. North Melbourne, a team who had some horror results the last couple of weeks, especially that loss to Adelaide. They wanted it more. They wanted to show something to the Island Street faithful, and here they get the job done. So Gold Coast is starting to get a little prickly for the Suns here as well. A little while ago, we were thinking of them as top 4 locks, possibly top 2 locks. They've fallen to 5th. They're just ahead of Melbourne on percentage, and it's starting to become a question now. Was this Damien Hardwick hire a hot buy or just finding a man to fill the seat? Because yes, he's done good with the Suns. He's the first Suns coach to win a final. He's got them inside the top 5 currently, but I think they are better than this, and I think they can do more. So for Gold Coast, it's starting to become a real touchy subject, real prickly answer to that question of, are they real or are they just being pushed by the coaching experience of Damien Hardwick? But we go to the later half of the season to find out that'll, because we know last year they had these runs as well where they had really bad weeks. They didn't have as many bad weeks. They had a lot more good weeks last year, but it's now sort of I think it's year 2 or year 3 for Hardwick. I think year 3 for Hardwick, and it's time that the Gold Coast start to really show what they're made of, because they're falling again, and they made a semi-final last year, which was great for them, but I think this list could be doing a lot more than what they're showing at the moment. Player of the game. This one's pretty hard to call. There's a lot of players, especially for North Melbourne, that I want to point out here, but my player of the game, I'm going to give to Finn O'Sullivan. 115 AFL fantasy, 26 touches, 10 kicks, 16 handballs, 9 marks, 6 tackles. Also good for North, Luke Davies-Uniacke, 126 fantasy, 1 goal, 30, 16, 14, 7 and 8. And Harry Sheasel, 121 fantasy, 32, 16, 16, 6 and 6. Best for Gold Coast, Matt Rao, 120 fantasy, 1 goal, 31, 19, 12, 1 and 7. And Noah Anderson, 115 AFL fantasy, 1 goal, 31, 23, 8. 5 and 3. Moving on in our Saturday, we go to our second game of the day at the Cattery at Cardinia Park, where Geelong were just too damn sexy for the Sydney Swans, beating the Swans quite comfortably in the end. Geelong 15-17, 107, Sydney 12-8, 80. Geelong winning this one by 27 points. And the Swans, they started well. They were the team on form early, the Sydney Swans. They come out in the first quarter, go into the first break, 4-3 in their favour. But then the Cats, they just do what they do best. They turn on the Jets and they turn on the form and become that elite side that we love to watch. 5 goals for the Cats in the second quarter, 2 for the Swannies. Cats flip that margin going into the main break. Then in the second half, the Swannies have the better third quarter, albeit by a goal, 5-4 in the third quarter. And then the final quarter, the Cats 3-1 to win this one. It was a really big push in the back end of the second quarter and early in the third quarter that saw the Cats get over the line in this one. The Geelong they just keep winning. Sydney, that's the end of their winning streak. Geelong just keep doing what they do. Business as usual for the Cats, and this is what we like about them here on the BJ Show, is they are a football team that come in, do their job, go to work, get a job done, check in, check out, and move on. For Sydney, again, this is a loss that I'm not too worried about. I think that, the Cattery is always a tough place to play. Geelong's always had the matchup on Sydney these last couple of years as well. So for the Swans, I'm not too worried. They do lose the top spot to Fremantle this week, but they are still definitely in the top 4 contention. The Swans, the Cats now coming into it as well. Geelong jumping up to third with this win here. We go to the player of the game in this one, and I'm going to give it to Lawson Humphreys from Geelong. 124 AFL fantasy, 1 goal, 33 touches, 22 kicks, 11 handballs, 9 marks and 1 tackle. Also, good games for Geelong include Jeremy Cameron, 111, 3 goals, 21, 17, 4, 10 and 1. And Max Holmes, 110 AFL fantasy, 35, 20, 15, 6. From Sydney, Riley Bice was probably one of their better players on the day. 104 AFL fantasy, 34, 17, 17, 3 and 2. And Lloyd as well for the Swans, 102 fantasy, 24, 16, 8, 6 and 5. And we will now leave that one there. We go to the biggest of the games. Game 433 for Scott Pendlebury, a career that started in 2006. A young man who had a basketball background and decided to pursue footy instead. Scott Pendlebury is a shining light of football, what football is about in the modern age. He is not just a player for the record books, he is a player to stand up amongst the all-time greats. You do not get to 433 games if you are not one of the best players of all time. And I have to say, I cannot imagine football. I've not grown up without football, with football not having Scott Pendlebury. So I've been here from game 1 to game 433 and beyond. Scott Pendlebury, one of the best players of all time, achieving this milestone, and he's still going. He's still, his drive, his want to win, it's still there, even 21 years later. Let's get to the game. Collingwood 13-14-92 defeated West Coast 12-10. 82. Collingwood winning by 10 points. Collingwood, again, I said it before, when Pendlebury's in the side, you've got a chance. When he's not in the side, it just doesn't look right. And again, Pendlebury just been out there for Collingwood, directing traffic as he always does, sees them over the line here in this one. So for Scott Pendlebury, it's now about what else can he do? He's done everything he can as a player, multiple premierships, multiple Anzac Day medals, medals, club BNFs, the list goes on, and now he's out there helping the next generation of Collingwood players understand their craft while being on the field himself, and that's just a testament to who he is, that he's rather been interested in helping out everybody else than running up his stats. Now, Collingwood come into the wild card now, so they're in the wild card with this win, and hopefully this is the start of Collingwood as sent back up. I think they're good enough to jump higher up the wild card chase. Unfortunately, though, they are going to be without Jamie Elliott. He did his ACL come the end of this game. And this is a very respectable Collingwood side if they keep it up. If not, I think it could be a year wasted for Collingwood. For West Coast, I think this was a fair game, and this was a genuine, honourable loss. 10 points on a day that's all about one man. There's not much to be said. Collingwood won the football, but West Coast probably won the day. Being able to stay with a seasoned team like Collingwood for the 4 quarters just shows that West Coast are also, much like North Melbourne, starting to mature, starting to come of age and see what they're really, really capable of. So West Coast, well done on being in this one. The turnaround for West Coast has been very good this year, and it's just the competitiveness. It's just been in the fight in games where you're not really expecting them to be. So West Coast, well done on that. I'm not really going to give a player of the game here. I think that it's not necessary. So game 433, Scott Pendlebury. We move now to South Australia, Adelaide Oval, for our last game, 4-3-3 Saturday. Port Adelaide versus Carlton, and this one was all Blues from the opening toss. The lid was off for the Baggers. Carlton, well gone in this game. They win the game comfortably here in this one. Port Adelaide 8-10-58, Carlton 13-14-92. That's the second 13-14-92 that we've had win a game on this day. That's an interesting stat, that 2 teams won a game 13-14-92. One Collingwood, the other Carlton. But Carlton, the much better side for the power. The sacking of Michael Voss just lets Carlton loose. They're playing a lot freer. The last couple of weeks they've been playing a lot freer. They've been playing with a lot more belief in their abilities and less in the structure of the tactics board. So now that they've got Cripps off the leash, you've got Ison. Jack Ison looks like he's going to be another great player for Carlton. Jagger Smith's off the leash. So you've got players being able to showcase their ability freely instead of within the confines of the whiteboard, and that's what's really helped Carlton here. There's a change in demeanour from them in these last couple of weeks. Now, that is very, very helpful going forward. I think that Carlton now, that this is who they really are. I think they're a very good team, and I think that they've been, and I don't want to say it, but I think that the whiteboard held them back under Michael Voss. And with Josh Fraser in charge, they've been able to show a lot more of who they are as individuals, and that's contributed to the result like this. For Port Adelaide, this is a team that I think we're all expected to fall down. They are a team who are falling down right now. So did I expect them to get absolutely blitzed by Carlton early on? No, but it just shows where they're at. They're a team that's heading towards a large-scale rebuild, and I just think that this is one of the real first results that's showing that. I think that a team who I think probably are equal to you, and you lose by that much, and it's only 34. It's not a lot, but again, as I said, team equal to you, you lose by 34. I think that there are bigger problems going on for Port Adelaide going forward. I think that they will need to rebuild and restock talent on their list, but that's where Port are right now. I don't think there's a lot we can say about them. They're still a great team, to watch. They're still entertaining, but they just don't have the full package out there right now, and it's just come of a time where Ken Hinckley's gone, the rebuild is dawning, and Port Adelaide, I think, are accepting that slowly, but there's not much to be done. You've had your time in the sun, and it's time to rebuild the list at Alberton. Player of the game here in this one is going to be Patrick Cripps. Cripps had 104 fantasy, 1 goal, 32 touches, 13 kicks, 19 handballs, 3 marks, 5 tackles. Also good for the Blues were Will Hayward, 97 fantasy, 2 goals, 19, 14, 5, 4 and 5. and Sam Walsh, 96 fantasy, 1 goal, 28, 10, 18, 5 and 2. Best for Port Adelaide, Jason Horn-Francis, 124 fantasy, 3 goals, 32, 23, 9, 5 and 2. And Zach Butters, 97 fantasy, 28, 15, 13, 5 and 3. Now we move to Sunday footy and we start out in the west of the town, and there was a big sound in the west of the town from the Greater Western Sydney Giants beating the two-time back-to-back reigning defending Brisbane Lions 26-10, 166, 13-10, 88. GWS win by 78 over the back-to-back reigning defending premiers. Yeah, this was a great game to watch. I saw a lot of it. You know, very even first half. 9 goals to 8, 9 goal 5 to 8-5 at half time, and you thought this was going to be, and we all thought this was going to be a real enthralling contest. And then the third quarter came around and GWS kicked 14-2 in the third quarter. Yes, 14-2 in the third quarter from GWS. Brisbane kicked 3 points. Final quarter, 3 goals to GWS, 5 to Brisbane, but the damage was already done in a historic third quarter, highest amount of goals ever scored in a third quarter of football. They call it the Premiership quarter for a reason. GWS put the boots into the Premiers in the Premiership quarter here. This was, I don't know the word for it, I think anomaly, historic, record-breaking. You know, there's a lot of words that can be used for this game, so we can't really take a lot out of this, but it just shows you how good GWS can be and how good the Orange Tsunami can be when they are on form. And they're starting to just get a few players back here and there, but they are definitely a team who are going to be, well, I think they're probably going to be in the mix of the wild card where they are now. I don't think they're going to push into that top 6, but I think more results like this, you see GWS in the wild card. Brisbane, there's not really a lot I can take out of this. This, as I said, anomaly. This is, you know, a game where there's not really much to look at. We just move on to next week, and that's exactly what I'm going to do here for Brisbane. So well done GWS on a historic game, and well done to all involved in the Orange Tsunami of that third quarter, because that was one for the history books. Player of the game in this one. There's so many good options. It's hard. So first off, I want to go with Gothard. I'm going to go with Phoenix Goddard from GWS. 130 AFL fantasy, 2 goals, 28 touches, 12 kicks, 17 handballs, 2 marks, 10 tackles for a triple-double. Clayton Oliver as well, 126 fantasy, 37, 16, 24, 21, 4 and 8. And then we had 2 players in the 5s. Jake Stringer, 5 goals. Toby Green, 5 goals as well. Best for Brisbane, Lockie Neal, 110 fantasy, 1 goal, 32, 10, 22, 3 and 6. And Darcy Wilmot also deserving of recognition, 99 fantasy, 27, 17, 10, 10 for a triple-double and 1 as well. So well done to those players there. We now move on to our final game of round 11, our final game of the Doug Nicholls round. Western Bulldogs versus Melbourne from Marvel Stadium. Western Bulldogs winning this one 14-9-93 to Melbourne 13-12-90. Western Bulldogs had the better start, and that is all they needed here. The Dogs used a very hot start to find a way to seal the deal, because it was a game of 2 halves. Western Bulldogs really showing what they can do even without some key players on their list. They do have players back, so they are going to be a team. I think, again, they'll probably end up inside the 5, inside the 6 if we look at it. I think they're good enough to be inside the 6, or they'll just be in the higher wildcard spots. So I think this is a great win for them. This was a real 50-50 game to take place. I think Western Bulldogs probably, and again, because Melbourne did close, they closed from about halfway through the second quarter, but Bulldogs always just found a way to keep their nose in front and saw themselves over the line in this one. For Melbourne as well, I think, again, close game. I think that, Langford probably was owed a mark in that final stages there, but not cold, not paid. Bulldogs get out with the win. Melbourne as well, as I said, as I've been saying, a team who I think look good for a wild card position, and they're showing it again. This is another. It's a loss, but it's a proof of concept for me. It's as much as we want to be winning games, I think they've been able to show that you can play multiple forms of footy against different opposition is also something that's very important, because when you have different teams playing different styles, you learn to play those games, and Melbourne are gonna go back to Casey. They're gonna learn from this. They're gonna come back stronger next week. I can give you that. Melbourne are gonna be a very, very good side this year. Western Bulldogs are definitely in the mix as well. Player of the game in this one, and it's got to be Ed Richards. 124 fantasy, 3 goals, 30 touches, 22 kicks, 8 handballs, 4 marks, 3 tackles. Best on by a good way. Matt Kennedy also had a good game for the Doggies. 108 fantasy, 23, 14, 9, 5, and 8. And so did the Bont, 107, 2 goals, 29, 11, 18, 6, and 2. Riley Sanders, 107, 30, 14, 6, 6, and 3. And Bailey Dale as well, 106, 31, 19, 12, 5, and 2. Best for Melbourne, Cozzy Pickett, 106, 25, 16, 9, 2, and 9. Cozzy Pickett not getting on the score sheet. And this one probably a big difference in how this one ended. And Max Gawn still showing he's the class of the ruckman in the AFL. 99 fantasy, 1 goal, 18, 8, 10, 2, and 42 headouts for big Maxi Gawn. So that is round 11 completed. We now move to the first of the bye rounds in round 12. The first bye week of the year, the first in-season bye week of the year is now upon us. We've reached the midway point of the season already. We start on Thursday night with St Kilda and Hawthorn. And in this one, I think I have to take the Hawks. They are a much, much more class outfit than the Saints. It is at Marvel Stadium where Hawthorn can play. We know that they are, as I said, a much more class team. They get the win here in this one. Next up on the Friday night, we have Carlton and Geelong at the MCG. I think as free and as fun as Carlton has been the last couple of weeks, Geelong's going to travel up the highway. They're going to come to Melbourne. They're going to get the job here. I'm going to take the Cats in this one. So Geelong will win here. Carlton, and as I said, they're a very good team. I'm very much a fan of them, but Geelong just too strong for them right now. We come to Saturday, Sydney versus Richmond. I think, well, Sydney by a country margin. It's the Swans taking the win here, and I don't think it's going to be close. Then we have a real interesting game at 3:45 on Saturday. Brisbane Lions versus Fremantle at the Gabba. And I have to say, the Brisbane Lions, they are going in favourites, but the form of the Dockers has been so strong. And it's the form of the Dockers against was that an anomaly for Brisbane. This one is a real knife-edge call, but I think that we go Fremantle in this one. Then we come to the Dogs and the Pies from Marvel. And again, another real knife-edge call, but I think at Marvel, the Dogs probably just have it. This one is probably one of my favourite games of the week. Probably not a game of the round like Brisbane, Fremantle, or Collingwood and Western Bulldogs and Collingwood, but still in a very interesting matchup here on the Sunday between Melbourne and GWS. And I think, as good as both these teams are, it's in Alice Springs, and that's just going to help Melbourne out and give them a massive boost. So I'll take Melbourne here in this one. And then we close with West Coast versus Essendon in Perth, a 16v18 game. And I'm going to have to take the Eagles in Perth over the Bombers. The Bombers could do a number with a new coach, but I think in Perth, West Coast are too strong. Teams on a bye in week 12, Adelaide, North Melbourne, Port Adelaide, and Gold Coast. And ladies and gentlemen, that is it for another episode of the BJ Show. Thank you all very much for tuning in, and I will be here same time next week to give you my thoughts on round 12 as we move through the mid-season buys.
All right, let's drive into our first up. It's the Suzuki UTA League Men's Review Grand Final 2026. We have the Auckland hosting Sydney FC, first time Auckland, and can they won it? And we are going to share that result right there. Now, I'm going to share right now, we had Auckland FC winning over Adelaide and Sydney FC claiming penalty over Newcastle. Best two teams knocked out. Then it came to Auckland, taking the congratulations, first time winning in history for the title in history of the Asa Suzuki UCEA men's. Congratulations, Sydney FC, all well done effort, finishing 5th and then claiming into the grand final. That is an effort to see. Alright, that's all. On to the next show. Trying to share the Stone Court Super Netball round 11 reviews and matches. And we have the first game. We got the Giants Netball, Adelaide Thunderbirds, the final score 37. Giants Netball, Adelaide Thunderbirds, absolutely got a delicious victory, 70. The next game is game number 2. The Melbourne Maricks hosting the Sunshine Coast Lightning. A 10-goal victory went to the Melbourne Maricks. Game number 3, Queensland Fibers hosting the West Coast Fever. Well, the West Coast Fever, they're back on target. They were 69-51. And the final game, it's Melbourne Phoenix and the NSW, known for New South Wales West. And the final score there is 67, Melbourne Phoenix 57, NSW Swiss. Well done to the Adelaide Thunderbirds, Melbourne Maricks, West Coast Fever, and Melbourne Phoenix. On to round 12 reviews. Okay, we up to the round 12 matches. 4 games, 8 teams. The first game we have on our screen, we're going to come together. Alright, so we have Sunshine Coast Lightning and Giants Netball. I'm going for Giants Netball. They're struggling, so Sunshine Coast Lightning to be safe. West Coast Fever, Melbourne Maricks. West Coast Fever, big winners there. They'll take the W. We have NSW, New South Wales, now known for Swiss. They're hosting the Queensland Firebirds. It's going to be a tight one. It's going to be a close one. But I think the Swiss, the New South Wales, NSW, Swiss will take this victory. And Adelaide Thunderbirds and the Melbourne Maricks, Phoenix, it's known for the second Melbourne team. Adelaide Thunderbirds. I'm going for them all today. So we're going to Sunshine Coast Lightning game number 1. Game number 2 is West Coast Fever. NSW Swiss, New South Wales, Swiss, game number 3. And Adelaide Thunderbirds, well, they will be hosting the Melbourne Phoenix. And I'm going for the Adelaide Thunderbirds, as I mentioned just then. On to the next sport. Okie dokie. Time to share the round number 9 result for the Women's Conference, Central Conference for the NBL1. Here it is on your screen, or wherever you're getting your podcast. I'm going to share these round 9 results. Forestfield Eagles and Eastern Maricks. Go ahead, the first game. 94, Forestfield Eagles 60, Eastern Maricks. Game number 2, we had the Woodsville Warriors and North Flames. 5-point victory went to the Woodsville Warriors. 101 to 96 North Flames. A strong heavy victory with West Adelaide Bearcats and North Adelaide Rocket. 105 West Adelaide Bearcats. North Adelaide Rocket, 42. Pretty tight battle here. South Adelaide Pandas and Search Savers. South Adelaide Pandas, 55. Search Savers, 79. And the final game for this round 9 result. Central District Lions and Salmon Tigers, 71-76. And it was the Salmon Tigers taking that win. Alright, we'll know the men's conference. Round 9 result. Here it is. So same thing I mentioned about the women's conference of the Central competition. Wherever you get your podcast, I'm going to do this the same way as I've been doing it. Here he is. The game of 1, Forestfield Eagles, Eastern Maricks. 99-91, Forestfield Eagles taking 8-point victory, 99-91. Woodsville Warriors, North Flames, 73-84. North Flames talking a good win now over Woodsville Warriors. With the 129-92, we have West Adelaide Bearcats taking that win over North Adelaide Rocket. It is the West Adelaide Bearcats, 129-92 North Adelaide Rocket. This is a pretty big deal here. We have South Adelaide Pandas and Search Savers. It is the South Adelaide Pandas, 103-79 Search Savers. Final game, Central District Lions, Southern Tigers. We had 113 Central District Lions, Southern Tigers, 86. Well, we've got some pretty good games here. There you go. Well done to all the winners. Now we're on to the Central. We got the round 7 results. I booked in SANFL back for the Rat Weekend. Game 1, South Adelaide Pandas and West Adelaide Bloods. Final score 14-9-93. Defeated 9 goals for 1068. Well done to South Adelaide Panthers with the win. We have the interesting big winners here. Good accuracy kicking as well. We have North Adelaide Roosters hosting North Redlegs. North Redlegs taking our big win. North Adelaide Rockets 7-6-48. North Redlegs 18 goals 9-117. The next game is the Cert Double Blues and the Central District Bulldogs. Final score, Cert Double Blues 15-15-105. Central District Bulldogs 4-7-31. Glenelg Tigers and the LA Coach Reserves. This is interesting and really the biggest way to get a victory. Glenelg Tigers 10 goals 14-74. 12 goals 9-81. LA Crows. Final game is Woodsville Eagles West Torrens Eagles in part of that name and hosting the Port Adelaide Magpies. Final score 29-129. Woodville Eagles 6 goals 7-43. Port Adelaide Magpies. Well done to South Adelaide Panthers, North Redlegs, Sturt Double Blues, LA Coach Reserves, and as well the Woodville West Torrens Eagles. Alright, on to the previews from round 8. There you go. And you can see those results on your screen or wherever you get the podcast. I will do everything I can share these results. We are back from another weekend of the SANFL Round 8 results. Well, it's now reviews. We're all about those reviews. Central District Bulldogs and West Adelaide Bloods. We have South Adelaide Panthers and Sturt Double Blues. North Adelaide Woodville Eagles and North Adelaide Roosters and Glenelg Tigers. Game number 1. It's going to be a pretty hard one down at Elizabeth. Both had big losses. I'm going to go for the big upsets. West Adelaide Bloods with the victory, but they've been struggling. Well with South Adelaide Panthers hosting Sturt Double Blues. South Adelaide playing some pretty good football. I think they've been playing some great talent going through their side, but Sturt, they can't be getting too past there. They'll take the win here. North Redlegs are hosting on Sunday football, are hosting the Woodsville West Torrens Eagles. North Redlegs, top of the clash, should be a beauty. North Adelaide Roosters hosting Glenelg Tigers. Glenelg Tigers, I think they're going to be a bit better there. So there you go. We've got West Adelaide Bloods, Sturt Double Blues, North Redlegs with Glenelg Tigers. There you go. There's my reviews for round 8. Well, let's finish it up with some AFL footy. As we now clear into where we are, game number 1, let's just dive into it. We were Thursday night at UTAS. Cold night. It is the second week of the Sir Douglas Nicholas round, so you can see those words. Hawthorn Hawks and the Community LA Crows. Final score 10-15, 75-9, 12-66. Hawthorn bounced big time after that big loss against the Melbourne Demons. The LA Crows, great start the LA Crows, knowing this is the season that they have not started well. This was the time to do that. Then after quarter time, it was Hawthorn taking over. This was a great effort and great time as the having that week with Hawthorn will play St Kilda on the light at Marble Stadium on Thursday night. Now, over all that, we know that Hawthorn's having those one of those will show up when we feel like it. Adelaide Crows, not the best starts. How can they reflect? How can they respond? It's 1 week at a time. That's my thoughts. Play the games. Here we are. Alright, we know what to do. A top 5 of the Adelaide Hawthorn Hawks. Blake hard work, player domination with Cam McKenzie. We have Josh Battle. We got Carl Amon. And as well, Jane Newcombe. Now for the LA Crows, the mighty Cuneo, the LA Crows. We have Raymond Miller continues to dominate. Jordan Dawson. We have Rory Led. And we got Josh Rowan with the Samberry. There, your top 5. Well done to the Hawthorn Hawks with the victory. LA Crows, enjoy the week off. All the best. Hawthorn Hawks against the Saints. It is the most important 40 calendar round. So Douglas, Dreamtime at the G. And that's what we are. Richmond versus Essendon. Very, very important match this is, no matter where they are on the ladder. Now, there's been a lot going on through the AFL world. There's a legend called, I don't know her, and someone that it's a really important part of the, it's struggled for life, and someone is so important to the, it's so important to the world of football. And why do I choose to share that news? There's so much that I want to share. I want to share in a big way. And I'm going to share my stats right now. It is Richmond versus Essendon. The final score is 10-14-74, 7-14-56. Now, this was going to be an anyone victory. This game went straight to Richmond. I tipped Richmond because they played really well against the Saints. Overall, they lost by 3 goals because they were in the game. Essendon, they were no near good. So, my thoughts is Richmond, big winners here and well earned. Essendon took everything to win this game and it was a good effort. My next fact of this is it was a close all game. Richmond was in front. So the basic what I mean is they were in front all game and they took the victory. Well earned. Now, Essendon has got so many issues. They will play West Coast and the improved West Coast in Perth and at the stadium. Richmond, they'll have confidence and they'll be up against a very talented side such as Sydney. Well, both teams will be tested for next round. Alright, it's time to share my top 5 for both teams. Alright, it's time to share the Dreamtime at the G best on grounds between the mighty Richmond Tigers and the Essendon Bombers here on your screen or wherever you get your podcast. We're getting your top 5 right now. So on your left-hand side on your screen, and I'm going to share this is the Richmond Tigers top best 5 with Tim Tredio, Jaden Short, Jack Ross, Steve Lee Green, and Ben Miller. For the Essendon Bombers, Zach Merritt, Dusty Parrish, Mason Redman, Archer Robert and Archer May. Well done to Richmond. And Essendon's top 5 best on ground. And once again, well done Richmond with the big win, 3-goal victory. Right, on to the next game. Alright, you know that is that we have 2 Friday nights. So back-to-back Friday night footies. And we're in Optus Stadium between Whoppy Fremantle Dockers and St Kilda Saint. Gotta say, great stuff from St Kilda. Then Fremantle after half-time, it took it all from Fremantle. They wanted to win and won from the second half. Fremantle actually haven't had a best season in 13 years. So the year 2013 against Hawthorn Grand Final, their first ever appearance Grand Final in history. Now, unfortunately, went down. Let's hope for Fremantle, yes, they're going to finish strong and hopefully they'll come into a very good position on the ladder and continue on their good form in the second half, which knowing Fremantle will do that. Will they do that? St Kilda, all known for in New Yorker, St Kilda. That's their meaning of their word for the Douglas Nicholas second round. And I got to say right now, this was a good win against Richmond, but now going against on Wobbly Up Dockers, I think this was going to be a more challenge than anything. St Kilda will take on and host Hawthorn at Marble, while Fremantle will travel to Brisbane, where Brisbane will host improved Fremantle Dockers at the Gather. I'm thinking Brisbane will find a way. Absolutely in unusual form, but with Fremantle's great form, I think we're going to have a great game. I think it's going to be more game around. It is the first split round. We'll come into that very, very soon. So to wrap it up, things, the Saints, they knew they're going to be challenged. They knew they're going to be tested and challenged. But Fremantle, that is in great form at the moment, and they just can't find a beat, find ways to win games, but they learn from their loss and they'll bounce back. So here is your top 5 best on ground between Fremantle and St Kilda. Let's just straight into it on the Fremantle Dockers or the Wobbly Up. Murphy Reid, Josh Tracy, Luke Jackson, Luke Ryan and Patrick Voss. For the St Kilda, Sam Fernandez, Jack Sinclair, Max Hall, Charlie Benfield and Mason Wood. So well done to the mighty Dockers and the Saints. Top 5 best on ground. On to the next game. You know what this is? The game of the round. Now why, it's first Saturday afternoon footy and we have super football. Now before I introduce a team up by, say, 45 points. I came from behind in the second half. Don't ever think you're going to win it. That's any sport. And we have North Melbourne Gold Coast. This is the final score 17. 9, 111, 69, 105. The game of the round, best game for the season so far in my thoughts. Why have I said the best game for the season so far? I've got to tell you why. Gold Coast leading away by 44 points, and they took control of that first half. Gold Coast. Well, we're going to win this game. And, they had almost the right attitude. They had a very good first half, but the second half, this team has improved and show ways that can do that. This is North Melbourne. The team has not known to come out and play full course of football. Came out and out of nowhere, the second half of their own football, their own style, and their supporters. At Marble Stadium, not a full crowd. But I'm going to give Gold Coast thoughts it was not over half-time. This is not the Gold Coast I have seen under Damien Howard. It's where did this come from Gold Coast? You have a team, Gold Coast. You have great experience. You left North Melbourne, had more energy. They were in the game, North Melbourne. What I can say about Gold Coast, they'll learn a lot from this. And knowing that you can't expect to go to Marble to beat a team they lost by 68 points on the road to Adelaide. Their record is now 14-0. They knew that. They knew how good Gold Coast were, and North Melbourne found a way. That's how much credit. No one even expect this was a victory. And, you find ways. Anyway, moving forward, North Melbourne, big credit. Didn't stop. Found a way to win this game in front of their North Melbourne supporters. And they did. Gold Coast needed to have this bye. Yep, so Gold Coast will have this bye and hopefully to have a very strong second half. I'm a bit concerned about Gold Coast in so many ways. You can't be up by 57 points or 44 points, I said in the intro, and then lose. So that's a little bit concerned, but I know Gold Coast will find a way to respond. North Melbourne is also having to take the week. Enjoy it and hope to see a good second half. You never know what can happen. So it's time to share North Melbourne Gold Coast Suns best on ground. The top best 5 for this game. Absolutely, it's time to share that. North Melbourne's top 5 are Luke David Jr. Coney, Harry Sicily, Jay Sinclair, Tristan XR, Paul Curtis. So they are North Melbourne best. And Gold Coast are Matt Rao, Noah Anderson, Christian Petrarca, Todd Miller, Ned Mo Lee. There you go, your Roos and your Suns top 5 for this game. And once again, well done. A big comeback for North Melbourne Footy Club. Alright, time to continue on with Twilight Afternoon Footy. Now we don't have a double Saturday night footy. We've got 2 twilights. First up, it's in Geelong at GMHBA Stadium for the second Saturday afternoon footy down in Geelong. Geelong and Sydney, we're going head-to-head. Best 2 teams going head-to-head, and there was a pretty good strong crowd for both teams going head-to-head in Geelong. Both teams are really well average in trailing over to Geelong. Final score here is 15-17-107 to 12-8-80. A 27-point victory to Geelong. Great accuracy from Sydney. Geelong needs to improve that. That's 32 scoring shots to 20. And overall was a 27-point victory. But I'm going to say Sydney will test a good test. Never give up each quarter. Learn from this game in Geelong, which they knew it was not going to be an easy game. Well, I'm going to say, well done to Geelong holding on a big win. It was not going to be easy because, Sydney came. Sydney are ready to play and they'll find the hard way to find goals. Well, Geelong and Carlton go head-to-head at the MCG, which you never see Carlton to take a big win here. You will never... Could they make 3 wins in a row? Carlton will share that very soon, later in the show. And Sydney will host back at the SCG against the Richmond Tigers, a big winners over Essendon. So can't estimate Richmond in any way. They will find a way and be in that game. Then they'll not drift off. But they'll stay in the contest. But they'll struggle on the score. So hopefully Sydney will have everything ready to go and take on and improve Richmond on the rebuild. With Carlton, surprises can make anything in front of their current supporters, in front of Geelong supporters. Pack house, should be a good game. Let's get my top 5 between Geelong and Sydney. To keep it all simple, you know what's happening. Geelong and Sydney's top 5. Geelong top 5 are Lawson, Humphreys, Jeremy Cameron, Matt Holmes, Bailey Smith, Patrick Gainsfield. The Sydney Swans are James Rowbottom, Isaac Henry, Tom McCarthy, Riley Bryce, and Jack Lloyd. They're your top 5. Well done, Geelong. Sydney heads up all the best for both respective teams playing between Geelong and Carlton and Sydney and Richmond. Okay, we got the Collingwood Magpies versus the West Coast Eagles. For there, this is the second Sir Douglas Nicholas Woff It Jamar War West Coast Eagles. That's what they're known to choose this special name. Final score 13-14-92, 12-10-82. Collingwood holding a 10-point victory. Now, records can be broken, and you can see on my screen, if you listen to the podcast, I'll explain wherever you are about this game. So, games can be broken, but before, I want to save that to share the West Coast. This is a team that has shown so much potentials, so much improved. They go on a team like Collingwood to struggle, then come together to face, West Coast to face Collingwood and then get defeated by 10 points in front of 90,000. That's proven an improved team. You're not getting smashed by 50, 60 points. This is the West Coast Eagles I've been seeing for a long time. You lose by 10 at the MCG in front of a 90,000 against a celebration. That's better than 50. But it's a win, it's a win. And give you credit from that West Coast. But the Bracken record is in the books. Celebrating Scott Pendlebury played 433, passing the legend of Brad Harvey, the former North Melbourne, known for Boober Harvey. This is the legend. He's now hoped to see more in the future for Scott Pendlebury. Congratulations on a great game and passing 433 games on that. This is, you come and see a player that is about him and support the Collingwood Magpies and get the win. It's important. But this is where I think West Coast had other ideas to take this win, to upset Collingwood, but not enough on a Saturday late afternoon. Not letting Collingwood, not this win, a big win instead of with a small margin, amounts. And I tell you right now, be proud of passing this legend. You're a former basketballer, coming to play Aussie rules and knowing that you're going to be a very good player in the AFL. Time to share top 5 players between Collingwood Magpies as Walk Itja Ma War West Coast Eagles. Let's make this nice and short. So, West Collingwood, top 5 are Nick Dacos. We have Dusty, Cameron, John Gigliotti, Jack Chris, and Bev McCricky. And I'm going to give it a big shout to Scott Pendlebury. May not be in that top 5, but I'm going to give him a bit of a bonus. But West the Eagles, Tom McCarthy, BJ Williamson, Lim Dougie, and Yo William Dersmart. They're your top 5. Well done to effort to the mighty Eagles traveling to the MCG to take on the celebration of the Bracken record as well. Alright, on to the next game. We almost say this is not really a very interesting game, but I thought this team like Port Adelaide was going to come out and I backed them up, but unfortunately it was the other hit. Port Adelaide and Carlton go head-to-head. Carlton getting back-to-back wins, which is great. Where is Port Adelaide? Not great. I tipped them to win it. Now, good thing is, in fact, Port Adelaide having that week off as well. The LA Crows, Carlton will be taking on their Geelong Cats. Another good rival at the MCG, which is perfect. Big crowd, hopefully, to see this game. Final score 8-10-58 to 13-14-92. Whoa, Carlton not just win it, but they put on a show to win by 34 points, 5.5 goals. They're strong against the LA Crows, but this is a way to bounce back, to come to Adelaide at the Adelaide Oval, different team of the SA teams, and take a big one on a underlights on Friday night footy. Overall is hope to see a better improved, second half, but hopefully Carlton will find a better second half. Haven't done that in a few years since 2023. But it's been 3 seasons since they have not yet to play a solid footy final. But I've got to say right now, never say never. Do we see improved Port Adelaide? Yes, they've got Matty Carr as their new head coach. This is not going to happen overnight to be. Matty Nick struggled for 5 years before making a top final berth. It took years to prepare. 4 years later, we had a chance. Then, 2025, his best year under coaching. Now he's struggling again. And that's what happens. But injuries come through. Anyway, moving on with focusing on the Port Adelaide and Carlton. Look, I don't know what the crowd, I only watched this a little bit, but I've got to say is hopefully we'll see a good second half of respective teams. Good luck Carlton over Geelong, on to the top 5 between this game, between Port Adelaide and Carlton. Okay. You know what to do. Port Adelaide's best 5 are Jason Horne-Francis, Zach Butters, Drew Richards, William Drew, and Jack Whitelock. The next one is the Carlton Blues, which is Lachlan Carwood, Patrick Cripps, Will Haywood, Olive Flum, and Nick Newman. Alright, on to our next game for the last 2 games for Super Sunday Ticket. Okay, here we go. This is not just a breaking record. This is not just the first Sunday afternoon out of 2 games. One was close, one was in blowout. This is the GWS Giants and the Brisbane Lions. Seen as 28-10-166, defeated 13-10-88. First point is Brisbane. Great start. Really confident. Feel like it's going to be great. No problems at all. What a team like Brisbane to start well. To let GWS Giants sustain that game and basically let Brisbane control that first half. It was the third quarter. The break-in AFL, VFL, AFL, however, 14 goals kicked, 2 behinds. That's 80 points, 86 points. There we go. I've got my 14 straight. 15 straight. It's 90. 14 goals, it's 84. 14.2, it's 86. That's in AFL score record, by the way. It's similar to 6 times. Anyway, Brisbane, they've been calling the worst expected. Did not expect this to happen. But the worst in history since they're called the Brisbane Lions. Under Chris Fagan. There is questions. They lost against Geelong by 6 goals, 7 goals. And then they tag on the Giants. Knew they were going to bounce back. What good teams do. They did not found out they're the best team at the moment, Brisbane. They look off. They are not the Brisbane Lions, I know. They're back in the rebuilding side. If they're not careful, they'll leave and they'll find another club. It's in good form. That's what players do. That's what will pick him up, and it will happen. They'll find a way, and no, it will happen. Alright, moving on to our next expectations. The Giants. It's not just the non-Victorian team to break the record of third quarter in history. They're kicking 14 goals to stop the reigning premiers, back-to-back reigning premiers. The kick against 14 goals on their home deck, a good crowd, proves to me they got talent in this team. They may not have all their best players out on deck, but they get a Jesse Hogan. Boy, they are dangerous. They've got a decent side to be playing against the premiers. I think the coach needs some spark to really lift this team, and they come out of nowhere. Heads up, Brisbane. I have potential. You'll bounce back. Please rebounce. Please respond. This is a really important game. Alright, we'll share your game very soon. The Giants as well. Time to share your top 5 from between both teams, between the GWS Giants and Brisbane Lions. The Giants of Great Western Sydney Giants, we have Phoenix, Hard, Clun Oliver, Flynn Cunningham, Brett Daniels, Toby Bedfords. Brisbane's best: Lockie Neal, Zach Bailey, Carl Lane Mann, Josh Dunkley, Kane Raider. There you go. Well done. From the Giants' best top 5 and as well Brisbane Lions' best top 5. And once again, the Giants congratulating the huge win and the breaking record in the third quarter. Western Bulldogs and Melbourne Demons coming up. Final game at Marble Stadium. Alright, the second Sunday afternoon footy at Marble Stadium. We're there again for the final game from round 11. So the final score, this was anyone's to win, and it was 14-9-93, 12-13, 12-90. The Melbourne Demons, well, they came from behind, but they will down big time. The Dogs came out absolute on fire and now find a way to hold on a 3-point victory. I'll give all credit to the Bulldogs. I'll get that very shortly. I'm backing up Melbourne Demons. This is a really improvement lot. You know, you'll find ways to get back in the game. And I know like right now, Stephen King will absolutely give you the best message you can take on against the Giants, which is going to be a challenge, I personally believe. Now, this could be really a good test for Melbourne, but going to Alice Springs in front of their supporters, they should find a way. They're pretty good in Alice Springs when they really want to be on the good side. So, yes, the Demons do take on the Giants next week, but overall, I think this has been a very, very good rebuild season, and a season that, yes, they lost the Clun Oliver, Christian Matrack, they maybe lost some other stars. Jack Steele has come into this team from the former Saints point of view. You know, teams come and go. Not leave the AFL, what I mean that. Players come and go is what I mean. And Melbourne find ways to get a better talent, a better plan. And I give Melbourne so much credit. And I think they'll find a way. They do find ways to do perform well in our screens, and they'll do that proud. Western Bulldogs finding ways to start well and then let the other team come back and struggle and then find a way to win the game. This is the kind of team that it's up and down at the moment. You're missing a massive key forward, and you're finding ways to win. Smart coaches do that, but smart coaches find ways to win. And I know that for a fact that the Dogs will go well in the second half. I think they're going to be a very good team in the second half, and that's quite scary at the moment. Same with Melbourne. I put them in 7th. I'm not joking, and I said this in my later predictions. Stay tuned for that as well, for my later predictions. But the second half, it's like, how can I predict that we can have a very good teams come from absolute changing coaches and form in a strongest way and to play finals? So don't split out of the Bulldogs and the Demons, known as Western Bulldogs and the Melbourne Demons. Nah. So, alright, top 5 best players. Let's dive into it. Okay, moving into our top 5. Here we go. For the Western Bulldogs are Ed Richards, Mashi Kennedy, for the captain, Monkus Bontempelli, Riley Sanders, Bailey Dale. For the Melbourne Demons, top 5 are Kristen Higgett, Matt Scorn, Jake Bowie, Jack Steele, and Harry Snap. These are players who can dominate and perform, and these are going to be your top 5 for the best and fairest. Look out. So well done to the Western Bulldogs. All the best next week. And to the mighty Melbourne Demons, well, bounce back next week. Alright, at the moment we've been waiting for, and I'm going to break it down, St Kilda and Hawthorn. St Kilda and Hawthorn go head to head, as I've mentioned twice, with the Hawks. The Hawthorn Hawks, 26-point victory here. Next one, we have Carlton and Geelong go head to head, and Geelong cuts by 21 points. And the Sydney Swans and the Richmond Tigers at the SCG, we have them Sydney by 45 points. But I'll give Richmond every credit to stay in the contest. Due to the split round, I'm going to break down all that, but we have Brisbane and Fremantle go head to head, and it might be a change the last minute, but I'm backing up Fremantle by 13 points. It might change the last minute. With the Western Bulldogs and Collingwood going head-to-head, Collingwood 15. I think the Dogs will really stay in control, but Collingwood will find a way last minute there. And Melbourne and the Giants go head-to-head. Melbourne by 16. I think they'll struggle more all day, Melbourne, but they'll find a way in that last quarter to find a way to victory. And your final game for the round was 14s on the bye. If I not mention their team, with Gold Coast, North Melbourne, Port Adelaide and the Adelaide Crows all having the week off, with West Coast hosting Essendon Bombers, and West Coast they'll find a way to be on an 18-point victory. Well, now it's time to share my round 12 reviews footy tips. Hawthorn, Geelong, Sydney, Fremantle at last minute chance might go to the mighty Brisbane Lions, Collingwood, Melbourne and West Coast Eagles. All the best. That's it, that's all. That's it from another episode of the Sports Update. So the BJ Show, Footy Show, and all the sports footy show, if you know what I mean. That's the show title. Well, thanks again, Aidan, for your input, as always. Thanks for so much for your support. We'll see you next time. And that's all, folks. Well, see you next time. See you next week. The BJ Show is out. That's all, folks. Cheers. Peace out.